Hey, hi everyone, and welcome to our exclusive AP webinar, What's New in WiredScore Certification V4. Today we'll be exploring the key updates to the WiredScore V4 scorecard and how you can effectively communicate the value of certification to your clients. I'm Sam Gunn, Learning and Content Manager here at WiredScore, and I manage the development and maintenance of AP training. I'm really looking forward to walking you through what these changes mean for you and your projects. Before we dive into detail, I'd like to quickly hand over to our speakers to introduce themselves. So let's start with Sam.
Hi everyone, I'm Sanj. I'm VP of R&D at WiredScore. I've been here for 9 years and really excited to present some of the work we've been working on bringing through the new version of the scorecards.
Thank you very much. And Lukas.
Thank you, Sam. Hello, everyone. I'm Lukas, Global Director of Operations. I've been with the company now for around 4 years. I have the pleasure of leading our global operations team. And throughout that time, I've worked closely with Sanj and our regional teams to bring real-world insights from our clients and from working directly with you as APs into the evolution of our product. So I'm really proud to walk you with Sanj through the key changes and our upcoming updates.
Thank you very much. And finally, Esther.
Thank you, Sam. Hi, everyone. I'm Esther. I work in the BD team here at WiredScore, focusing predominantly on the UK market. I've been at WiredScore for about 3.5 years, and in that time, I've had the pleasure of working on some really cool projects with some very innovative clients, and I also work very closely with our fantastic AP network here in the UK too.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Esther, and thanks to all of our speakers for your time and support today. So let's take a quick look at what we'll be covering in today's session. First up, Lukas and Sanj will walk us through the major scorecard changes and the research that shaped the latest version of the WiredScore scorecard. We'll then pass over to Esther for a brief overview of how to speak to your clients about the updates and the continued value of WiredScore certification. And after that, I'll return and we'll talk about tools, guidance, and ongoing support that's available to APs. We're going to finish with a live Q&A, but if you do have any questions during the session, please do pop them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, as we're likely to have a little bit of time after each section for 1 or 2 questions. So please do share those as soon as they come to you. Before we make a start, we're going to do a very quick poll just to see what we have here in terms of experience. So perhaps you're an existing WiredScore AP who's worked with us before, perhaps you're new to the process, perhaps you're a SmartScore AP and you're curious about the WiredScore scorecard. So if you could just quickly take a second to complete the poll on screen. Give you another couple of seconds there. Okay, great. It looks like the vast majority of you are existing WiredScore APs who qualified on our previous scorecard version. So really glad that you're here today to learn about these updates. And there's also some great SmartScore APs here who are curious about learning about WiredScore and some new APs who are new to the process. So welcome to all of you. I really hope that you find today's session really useful. And without further delay, I'm going to hand over to Lukas and Sanj to discuss the updates.
Okay. Thanks, Sam. So thanks everyone again for joining today. In this first section of the webinar, Lukas and I will walk you through the key themes and research that shaped WiredScore certification V4. I'll be focusing on the why, sharing the research and the occupier trends that led us to evolve the certification, and Lukas will drive more into the what, explaining how those insights have translated into specific changes in the scorecard. So let's start with that top level picture, the highest of the whys. The way we use buildings has fundamentally changed, and the people that occupy them now expect robust digital connectivity as a basic requirement, not a nice to have. And that isn't just for offices. Lukas will touch a little bit on that, how our WiredScore V4 has expanded into new asset classes as well. At the same time, there's been emerging technologies, such as the prevalence of AI and next generation collaboration tools, along with the need for buildings to drive tighter sustainability requirements, which means that digital infrastructure and digital foundations within a building is being used for many, many more use cases than just delivering internet and Wi-Fi to individuals. And of course, the way we have worked has changed since the pandemic. In a world of hybrid working, we now have to engage with the office space in a very different way. Occupiers are asking not only for better data, but more transparency and a stronger sense of community from the buildings they use to really make sure those spaces are effective for them as possible. So all of this means that managing technology across entire portfolios has not just become more important, not just harder, but very, very much so, much more complex. So we really looked to strive to reflect that in WiredScore V4 as we launched the new scorecard. So why are we releasing WiredScore Certification V4? It's really to respond to that evolution. Our V4 scorecards is built around 3 key themes which apply across all asset classes WiredScore V4 applies to. As I mentioned, Lukas will touch on a little bit more on that later, but it's a really exciting expansion that we've had this year. The first one is recognizing as occupiers evolved technology needs, particularly in terms of the experience a building delivers, how mobile connectivity is becoming a bigger and bigger part of what's required, and then underpinned by having that security and sustainability from their technology offering as well. Secondly, we've introduced an enhanced set of tools to drive not only data-driven asset management for our joint clients as portfolios grow, but also making sure that as APs and as people working on certifications, you've got access to a brand new way of working with our certifications, which will help the whole market drive scalable technology decisions. And thirdly, we've increased the focus on communicating a building's technology features more clearly. Come on to the exact detail of our tech stack later, but WiredScore now sets the global benchmark, and our scorecards must continue to reflect the very best of what's possible in real estate technology, and we have to make sure that we help communicate that as it becomes more complex in a more straightforward manners. Going to pass over to Lukas now, who's going to dig into some of the asset class work we've done.
Yes, thank you, Sanj. So alongside V4, we are also broadening the scope of our certification into new asset classes. And we're doing this because in offices, connectivity has gone from being a value add to a non-negotiable. So now we're seeing similar shifts in sectors like industrial, where we launched beginning of the year in the UK and also 1 week ago in continental Europe, and also single family homes. For example, in industrial spaces, the rise of automation and real-time logistic demands really scalable and reliable connectivity. In single family homes, particularly in professionally managed portfolios, residents expect strong Wi-Fi, but also smart home technology and also seamless remote work experience. So what's driving this expansion? So technology expectations are converging across asset types, and developers and operators need unified frameworks to manage complexity. And connectivity is becoming foundational, not only for occupier or resident satisfaction, but also for delivering on ESG targets. Ultimately, this is a natural evolution of WiredScore mission to make all buildings smarter and better connected. Back to you, Sanj.
Thanks, Lukas. Now we're going to dive deep into each of those 3 themes I touched on previously. So first of all, let's look at occupiers' evolving technology needs. Occupiers no longer just want a building with a green label on them. They want access to real-time ESG data to meet their own reporting obligations, especially in the world of Scope 3 and Scope 2 emissions reporting. Buildings must offer that level of transparency. In terms of experience, flexible work means occupiers need buildings that support both physical and digital collaboration with fast, uninterrupted connectivity throughout, no longer just in the office space, throughout that building. And as buildings become more interconnected, it's key that the resilience and cybersecurity setups of those buildings are top of mind in thoughts of building owners and operators. Because today's occupiers expect that their systems will be protected by robust, secure infrastructure, which is all the responsibility of the landlord and the operator. Back over to Lukas for the second P.
Thanks, Sanj. So what's new in V4 to meet these needs? So first, we've elevated the role of mobile connectivity across all asset classes, reflecting its growing importance as a foundational expectation for occupiers. Seamless mobile performance is no longer a bonus, it's a baseline requirement, which means that it's now part of all scorecards, whether it is industrial, single family or multifamily home, but also, of course, for offices. And for offices specifically, we made significant upgrades. So in both the office development and occupied scorecards, mobile performance is now a minimum requirement for achieving WiredScore Gold in terms of have you really understood the mobile performance in your building? And for office and industrial occupied scorecards, WiredScore Platinum now requires acceptable performance from at least one mobile operator, making our strongest push yet towards truly seamless connectivity. Secondly, we've also introduced a brand new digital services category to recognize buildings offering tech-enabled amenities that enrich the occupier experience, for example, building environmental performance management in WiredScore Industrial. And we are now explicitly recognizing innovation with category level criteria. Sanj will walk you through that later on, and even more real work examples from top performing buildings across the globe. More on that in the next section. Back to you, Sanj.
Great, thanks, Lukas. And then moving on to our second theme, enhanced tools for asset management. I think with so much data available, landlords have a unique opportunity to make better decisions, but only if they have the right tools in place. And I think this works two ways, both in terms of the depth within a building itself, but also across a portfolio. So we're going to look at both of these sides, but to start with, our new features provide portfolio-wide insights. So we'll have clients will be able to benchmark a building not just against their other assets, but also by a city or country level comparables. And I think from an AP perspective, being able to present what best in class is from a regional perspective or from a building size perspective will be super important when you're making those cost-sensitive design decisions. This helps ensure that properties remain competitive, but whilst avoiding the risk of falling behind as tech evolves. Lukas is going to go through our third thing.
Yes, so in practical terms, that means we've significantly upgraded the Insight tabs for deeper performance visibility, both across portfolios and at the asset level. And as always, we've also streamlined the certification journey itself. So there are new best practice guides for all asset classes to help define the digital strategy for you as APs, but also for clients. There will be a new and rebranded occupier connectivity guide, which helps tenants get online more quickly. And lastly, we've enhanced our recommendation engine so you can build a more effective roadmap and measure the return on investment of technology investments. And lastly, we've made scorecards simpler and more focused, so it's easier to connect what the building is related to the outcomes you want. Back to you, Sanj.
And the final theme of communication. Technology is now a core part of a building's value story. Occupiers want tech stacks that are compatible with their own systems and give them access to performance data. At the same time, investors are asking tougher questions from a due diligence perspective. Therefore, tech resilience, adaptability, and obsolescence risk are now central factors that are being measured as part of this due diligence process. As such, buildings need to be able to communicate their tech capabilities clearly, not only to owners, but also to occupiers, investors, and also present themselves to the wider market. Lukas is diving into the detail of how we've achieved this.
Yeah, so to support that, we've added new deliverables in V4. So we are launching the WiredScore tech stack, more on that from Sanj in a minute, a visual unified overview of all the building's tech infrastructure. It really helps occupiers, investors, and managers quickly understand what's in place. And we are also enhancing our marketing support early in the certification journey. So project can now promote their status at the registered and pre-certified stages, helping really drive leasing and visibility sooner. And we've created a more powerful certification app so that reports, recommendations, and marketing assets are all in one place and easy to use. And with that, over to you, Sanj, for the introduction of the new scorecard structure.
Great. Thanks, Lukas. So that's the why and the what of what we've done. Now we're going to dive into the how. So how we actually adapted WiredScore V4 scorecard to drive this. And this it's important to remember here, this is a structure we're going to talk about across all asset classes. So traditionally in the version 3.1 world, you were used to sections which had different credits on them and a different makeup between asset classes. We've gone to move in V4 to unify the structure. And the first, this is going to be a generic overview. I'm not going to go through a specific scorecard in this one, but the first step is we've introduced broader sections. Those of you that are from the smart score world will be familiar with this. So all of our scorecards will have a breakdown which is between UF and TF, so user functionality and technological foundations. So user functionalities assess how well the buildings deliver real-world experiences that occupiers expect, such as reliable mobile services, access to digital services, and visible usable tech features. Whereas TF, the technological foundation, means this section focuses on the underlying infrastructure, that connectivity backbone, the resilience measures that are in place, and the operational processes that ensure long-term performance. This structure is not only more intuitive for clients, it also helps you as APs guide stakeholders more effectively through the design and refurbishment process. Start with those technological foundations and then show how they can translate into great user outcomes via the user functionality section. If we just move on to the next slide, I'm just going to dive into what that means a bit of a lower level. So we have those sections, user functionality and the technological foundations. Within those sections, there's then a number of categories. There's somewhere between sort of 3 and 6 categories, depending on what the asset class is. Within each category will be a set of criteria. And one of the biggest shifts we've made is every single criteria now will be feature driven. So they'll have up to 4 features per criteria. And those features are independently selectable. So you can really get true clarity on the options that make up the credit weighting. So each feature has a set of credits to it that map up to the criteria credits, which then map into the category credits, the section credits, and the overall score for the building. Lukas will take you through a quick overview of what that means for Office now.
Thanks, Sanj. So this is a visual overview of the new Office occupied scorecard, really in action. And as Sanj introduced, we've clearly separated these 2 sections. So technological foundations, or the TF section, is really aiming for, does the building have the right setup? Are point of entries, comms rooms, and pathways resilient and future ready? And the user functionality side of things is really concentration based on the technological foundations. How well does the building support real life usage? Do occupiers experience fast Wi-Fi, mobile coverage, but also smart services, and also tech-enabled amenities? And this layout supports a more logical assessment journey for you as an AP, but also for clients. And it really reflects how buildings are actually designed and managed, starting with infrastructure, then layering in occupier-focused functionalities in general. And you will see a lot of familiar criteria, but really more structured and evolved. And then on the next slide, another important change, as Sanj mentioned, is the move away from the older full and partial credit system. So in V4, scoring is now feature-based. And as Sanj explained, each criteria has 2 to 4 clearly defined features, and each feature carries a specific number of credits, as you can see on the right side. And this makes your job as an AP much more straightforward, because you know exactly what needs to be assessed. It's easier to explain and progress to clients. And also it encourages target improvements instead of vague catch-all upgrades. And overall, this change brings more transparency, greater consistency, and a much clearer path to certification. Over to you, Sanj, for the introduction of the WiredScore tech stack.
This is one of the parts of the scorecard I'm most excited about for the upgrade to WiredScore V4, which is the introduction of the WiredScore tech stack. To support everything Lukas has just covered, we're introducing the WiredScore tech stack, which is a powerful digital tool to simplify and enhance the certification process for you as APs. At its core, the tech stack is a centralized system that captures and visualizes all building infrastructure, systems, and features. From there, automatically creates a building-specific technology profile, helping clients clearly see what's already in place across features such as points of entry, risers, and comms rooms, and where the gaps are. It then goes a step further by enabling auto-scoring relevant parts of the scorecard based on the data you enter. So how this is going to be used? On a building level, you input building data directly into the platform on the tech stack. That would then lead to receiving a consolidated view of the infrastructure, as well as visuals and scoring insights of how that building's performed. From here, you can quickly identify upgrade or improvement opportunities and be able to guide your clients towards better outcomes. So what does the tech stack do? As I mentioned, it auto-generates those building-specific technology profiles. So you get a view of this building has 3 risers, these are the features of each of the risers, or this building has this many telco rooms. So you can really get that overarching technology stack view. It then auto-scores. So you can get all the features that you tag on each of the infrastructure elements map into the criteria automatically. It then allows you to really do a gap analysis, so you can visualize the strengths and the gaps of the building's digital infrastructure. And then it helps you to streamline reporting and documentation. You get that single page view of everything that makes up in the building. So we believe what you'll gain from this is saving time during the certification process through the built-in automation and the fact that you're capturing evidence from something that sort of reflects the technology stack of the building. be able to deliver clearer, more visual insights and actionable recommendations to clients, and also simplify your workflow. With the structured outputs that help you communicate value more effectively to clients, you're in a position where you can really scale the way you approach with our certifications. So with that, we've wrapped up our overview of the why and the what behind the WiredScore V4 scorecard. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. I'm going to hand you back to Sam, who will continue the session.
Thank you very much, Sanj and Lukas. A really great breakdown of the changes and the why behind them. We've got a couple of questions in a sort of similar vein, so I'll ask one of them, and hopefully you can cover this. We've talked a lot about how WiredScore V4 now includes more smart functionalities, digital services, and a stronger focus on innovation. Doesn't this blur the line between WiredScore and SmartScore? And if so, are we planning to stop SmartScore?
That is a great and very valid question, one we've had to sort of balance in our research process. So the first validation is no, we are not stopping SmartScore. SmartScore will be upgraded to version 3 as well. So do look out for those webinars when they come through. And we also see a world where WiredScore V4 doesn't cannibalize SmartScore. In fact, the two certifications are now complement each other much more clearly than ever before. Because within V4, we're acknowledging that digital connectivity today just isn't about the infrastructure and occupiers connecting to the internet. Occupiers are increasingly expecting more tangible digital experiences, so buildings providing them with connectivity services, and that digital infrastructure is being used for more use cases than just providing internet for users, as touched on before. So, the convergence of that network to cover sustainability measurements, etc. So that's something where we really see it sits within WiredScore as it continues to focus on the digital foundations of the building, that connectivity and infrastructure enabled features. Where SmartScore will continue to evaluate building smart capabilities as a whole based on those user experience deliveries, the user journeys, and making sure that overall data governance is in place. So V4 really does build a stronger bridge between WiredScore V4 and to be launched SmartScore V3, and therefore it helps landlords move more naturally from delivering great infrastructure with WiredScore to enabling intelligent user-focused experiences with SmartScore. So yeah, whilst WiredScore is getting a little, let's say, smarter, it really is focusing on those foundational infrastructure that delivers that capability, where SmartScore continues to focus on the experience that can be delivered. So they've both grown in strength by this, by the way we've aligned the products this time around.
Thank you very much, Sanj. And as you touched upon, we will have a SmartScore webinar in September, and you'll get more comms about that very, very shortly. Another question, I think this one is for you, Lukas. Why has mobile connectivity taken on a more prominent role in the updated WiredScore scorecards? And what are the key drivers behind the shift from nice to have to non-negotiable?
Yeah, great question. So to give you a little bit more background on this, occupiers today expect seamless mobile connectivity everywhere in the building, not just at their desks. So with hybrid work models, increased use of collaboration apps, and also mobile-first workflows, professionals really heavily rely on strong mobile coverage throughout the day. And that's why we've elevated mobile connectivity in the scorecard. It's really no longer a background utility. It's a business-critical service. And the revised scorecard ensures that occupiers can confidently work more and connect across the entire building without signal dropouts or performance gaps. And this shift is driven by changing occupier behavior, basically. Users now expect the same mobile performance inside the building as they get outside, whether it is joining a call while walking between meeting rooms, using mobile apps in underground parking garages, or simply relying on consistent 4G or 5G access for everyday tasks. And poor mobile performance is no longer acceptable. And this evolution, combined with increasing demand for flexibility and connectivity, means landlords who deliver strong mobile infrastructure are directly addressing occupier priorities and retention needs. So that's really the big picture about why we're making that shift towards mobile in the upcoming updates.
Thank you very much, Lukas. We have a couple of questions around key dates and deadlines, which we're going to cover later in the webinar. So I'll go back to those if we haven't answered your question by the end. But I'm now going to hand over to Esther to talk about how to speak to your clients about WiredScore certification.
Thank you, Sam. So yeah, as Sam said, I'm going to quickly run through a couple of the slides we typically use when we're pitching, and also how I would position the scorecard changes ahead of the update. So firstly, I like to keep this slide pretty high level and as clear as possible so that the client immediately understands what we do. So I'd say something like, we are a certification business and we set the global standard for digital connectivity and smart technology in real estate. We were ultimately created to bring transparency to the market around digital connectivity. I really like this slide as it's quite versatile and can create a really compelling narrative around WiredScore's growth, but it also provides validity and credibility of our product. So I would start off by talking about how we began in New York with the backing of Michael Bloomberg, who identified that there was this disconnect between businesses, landlords, and tenants when talking about digital connectivity in office buildings. We then very quickly grew across America and we launched in the UK in 2015. And since then, we've expanded into over 40 countries. So lots and lots going on the market side of things. On the product end, I would then quickly run through the different products we've launched. Obviously, you can focus on whichever one you are pitching. But we launched our home certification in 2019, Smart Score in 2021, and obviously our most recent launch was industrial in March. So I think the kind of two key takeaways I like to really emphasize on this slide. Firstly, other people think what we do matters. And secondly, our growth solidifies our footprint of knowledge that really helps us to make decisions around our certifications, particularly when it comes to updating our scorecards or launching new products. So again, I like to use this slide to provide more credibility, and I really try to create some FOMO here. So I'd say something like, we are lucky enough to be working with over 1,000 clients. Our clients really trust us, but they're also a huge resource for us. So we heavily lean on our clients whenever we launch a new product or we update our scorecards to ensure that all of our products have very much been written by the market for the market. So whenever we're doing new things, we are doing them in conjunction with our clients. And I think this is really how we've got to where we are today. This slide obviously shows the magnitude of our WiredScore AP network. We have a global community of over 2,000 WiredScore accredited professionals, which we're incredibly proud of. Our APs form a really important part of the certification process, and we work very, very closely with our APs to ultimately help our clients to improve their buildings. And just as we do with our clients, we also work very, very closely with our APs to ensure that our scorecards and any new products align with what you guys are seeing in the market. So this slide, I think, really conveys the crux of the problem WiredScore sets out to solve and really where we can add value for our clients. So across all of our certifications, I think the single biggest problem that we're trying to solve is the divergence between the time it takes to build an asset and the time it takes for technology to evolve. So in the office sector, it could be 5 to 10 years from the initial design stages to the building being fully operational, by which time technology is outdated and occupiers have moved on to the next big thing. There's always a risk that technology is moving away from you, but our clients at some point have to decide what specification they're going to put into their building. And our job and your job is to make sure that this specification and this technology curve aren't going too far apart, and help our clients to design their buildings in a way that it means it can always keep up with technology. So here I would really just emphasize the differences between these two certifications. We've got lots of questions from clients on this. So again, I try and keep it really high level and very, very clear. So WiredScore obviously focuses on the digital connectivity of a building, so assessing its telecom infrastructure and setup, and which providers can service the building, how strong mobile performance is, etc. SmartScore, on the other hand, looks at the smart technology deployed in a building and how it ultimately enhances the user experience. For the sake of brevity, I'm not going to do this today, but obviously I would usually have a couple of slides that provide more details on the asset class that I'm pitching, and the scorecard criteria and the kind of key areas that we look at. So this slide is probably where I would really emphasize the scorecard changes and incorporate them into my pitch. You can absolutely use one of Sanja's slides from earlier on if you want to have a kind of whole slide dedicated to it. But I think I would, again, try and keep it fairly high level and discuss it here. So firstly, I would start off with what I'd usually say here. So talking about what you need to do to get to each level. So, there's minimum credit thresholds and minimum requirements. I'd also talk about the difference between a certified building and a platinum. So they might both provide a similar technology experience on day one, but a platinum building should still be platinum in 5-10 years' time, whereas a certified building will probably need a bit more attention to maintain its certification. I would then emphasize that we have an in-house R&D team who are constantly monitoring technology trends in real estate and whose job it is to ensure that our scorecards really do reflect the highest global standards. So again, provide more credibility. That would then lead me on nicely to say that we're about to launch the latest version of our scorecard in October. And while there are many, many great benefits of the new scorecard that Sam and Lukas have just run us through, from a sales perspective, we found previously that the scorecard change has been a really useful, really effective way of getting clients to commit to the certification on the current version of the scorecard, which is usually less stringent. So it's basically been a really effective way of driving urgency. So the way I would position this is by highlighting the key changes. So in light of changing occupier requirements that Sanj touched upon earlier, on the latest version of our scorecard, we place more emphasis on mobile performance, cybersecurity, and digital services. I think when translating what this means for our clients and why they should certify on the current scorecard, I would really highlight these two kind of big key changes. So firstly, the new scorecard is structured in a way that makes it less flexible. So whereas on the previous scorecard, you could excel in one section and be fairly average in another section and still achieve platinum, now we are structuring in a way that means you have to score well across all sections. The second big change is, as Lukas spoke a lot about, is we now require exceptional mobile performance throughout the building from at least one provider in order to achieve platinum. That is a really big change from the previous iteration of the scorecard where we only asked our clients to effectively understand the coverage in the building. This does just apply to the office scorecard, not residential. But those are the kind of key changes I would emphasize here. Depending on the client and the project, I would then follow on from this and say I would really recommend that you register the scheme before the scorecard change to ensure that they can be assessed on the more flexible, less stringent scorecard. I definitely reinforce a time frame for this. So our scorecards will be officially updating on the 31st of October, and projects have to be kicked off by the 12th of December in order to stay on our current scorecard. And this has traditionally been something our clients have really cared about. So I think it's important that together we convey this message to our clients as early as possible, and where applicable, really encourage them to register ahead of these changes. And then lastly, I would run through the key ways in which WiredScore certification really drives value for our clients. We have lots of slides on this, but these are the kind of 3 key areas that I'd focus on. So firstly, attracting and retaining occupiers. Our scorecard ensures that our clients' buildings are designed to provide a best-in-class experience for occupiers. The internet is a fourth utility. No occupier is going to sign a lease without inquiring as to the Wi-Fi options in the building. And having a WiredScore certification means you can confidently say that this building meets the global standard. It shows occupiers that the landlord has proactively taken measures to ensure the building can provide this seamless connectivity experience. Secondly, delivering best-in-class developments. For new developments, digital infrastructure needs to be baked in from day one, not bolted on later. And that's where WiredScore and RAPs play a really critical role. We guide project teams through the best practices in early design, really helping avoid them making costly mistakes and ultimately future-proof their assets. And then lastly, increasing investor confidence. Investors want clarity. They're looking for assets that can stand the test of time. And digital capability is now a key part of that equation. So WiredScore certification gives investors independent, credible proof that a building's digital infrastructure is robust, future-ready, and ultimately protecting the future value of their assets. And that's it from me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Esther. Really great walkthrough of how you would pitch the value of certification to our clients. And just a reminder of those deadlines, if you did miss them, In order to start a project on the V3.1 scorecards, you have to have signed up by the 31st of October and have completed your kickoff by the 12th of December. Thank you very much. We're going to move on from the question break now and have an extended question and answer at the end. So please do continue to submit your questions in the Q&A box. And I'm going to very, very quickly talk you through some of the new resources we have to support you. So firstly, a fairly obvious one, we have the new AP training for WiredScore V4, and this is a slightly different structure to the previous training, where you would have an entire 6 to 8 hour course per asset type. So we had office occupied, office development, and home. We now have a core course, which covers all of these assets at a higher level, and the exam will cover all asset types that we currently certify, which now includes industrial and single-family home. And then there are some shorter asset specialty trainings that you'll complete after this core course. We strongly recommend, if you're an existing AP who is qualified on V3.1, that you do look at these asset specialty trainings in the asset types that you're working on, just to upskill yourself on the V4 scorecard. And anybody who would like to work on industrial projects will need to complete that V4 asset specialty training module as well. So please do take a look at these training modules. They're available to you in your course team library. So if you click training on the AP platform, you should be able to self-assign and access all of these resources directly yourself. If you do have any issues, please do reach out to AP support and we can help you get there. To support with certification delivery, on the next slide, please. We have created some updated versions of some of our key resources. So that includes V4 scorecard guidelines across all of our asset types, an offline scoring Excel tool for each asset type, and really importantly, a best practice guide for V4. Now, those of you who are Smart Score APs will know this resource very well by now, and Lukas and Sanj touched on this earlier, but it's a really great tool that delivers an in-depth analysis of the scorecard, and it includes really detailed requirements and an actionable guidance for each criteria. So if you've not yet had a chance to familiarize yourself with that best practice guide, please do go take a look. There's one available for each of the asset types that we certify on V4. And we also have a site survey checklist. This is for occupied projects. When you are completing a site survey, it's just a quick check that you can have on your tablet or you can print, take with you, and very, very quickly check that in each area of the building or site, you've collected everything photographic or documentation wise that you need in order to evidence that criteria. So really, really useful things here that I think you'll find useful. All of this is available within the AP content library under certification tools. I'm going to move on to some sales tools we have available to you as well. Just a heads up though, we are going to be adding scorecard assessments in the AP platform very shortly. At the moment, we have the offline scoring tools for V4, but this will be updated very soon, and you'll be able to complete your target scoring and evidence uploads within the platform. So stay tuned for further updates. We move to the next slide, please. We've also updated our commercial guidance on certification delivery, and this is to support you in managing your time, managing client expectations, and considering how to set your pricing based on the amount of time that you'll be spending on a project. So please do look at this. It's available in the AP content library. And we, of course, have the AP Sales Hub, which provides you with links to all of the resources that you might need when speaking to clients about WiredScore certification, including pitch decks, case studies, and links so that you can set up quick meetings with your BD contact here at WiredScore. So before we move on to the Q&A, just a few next steps for you. Firstly, I'm going to send you a survey in the chat. If you could complete this, that would be really, really useful for us to improve our future webinars. Please do take a look at the V4 asset specialty modules in the training platform if you haven't done so already, just to ensure that you are ready for any V4 projects you'd like to work on with us. And if you have the time, I would really recommend that you do look at the core V4 training as well. And of course, as I said, the V4 best practice guides are a really great tool and really recommend that you do take a look at those. Thank you very much. Let's move on to a Q&A. I think the first question I have here is for Lukas. What has driven the decision to measure innovation at category level rather than scorecard level? Oh, I think you're muted, Lukas.
Sorry for that. Yeah, also a great question. So measuring innovation at the category level basically allows us to capture meaningful and also context-specific advancements within each domain of the building performance. So in our opinion, innovation can look very different depending on the technical area. So for example, in the new scorecard, in the new category technology resilience, features like N+1 redundancy for HVAC and telecommunications room or data center grade fire suppression systems represent innovation for us. And by assessing innovation within each category, we really avoid disproportionately rewarding innovation in one area while overlooking meaningful progress in another. And this approach ensures that innovation is recognized in a way that is both relevant and fair across all aspects of a building's digital infrastructure. Ultimately, this structure promotes targeted innovation, encouraging stakeholders to push boundaries where it truly matters without skewing the overall building score or treating innovation as a generic add-on. So that's a really, really good shift.
Thank you very much. Another question here. We've seen growing interest in applying these methodologies to different building types. Is that something that WiredScore is actively exploring? Sanj, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So let's just say we're listening closely to the market. I think we've heard the same things, that people are very interested to see how this this approach can apply to other asset classes. And we know that connectivity and smart infrastructure are no longer limited to traditional office buildings, as we've seen with our launch in industrial and moving to single family home. The exact approach that we take to any other asset class expansion isn't something we can share details on today, but we're definitely thinking about how that overall framework structure could start to apply and be applicable to a broader range of asset classes in the future.
Thank you very much. Could this framework be a stepping stone towards certifying more complex or hybrid use cases like healthcare or public infrastructure? Really good question.
Yeah, I think I'll take that one as well. I say it feels limitless, the bounds of where we could go with evaluating these sort of WiredScore criteria. With our neighborhood product as well, we're seeing different variations on how that could apply in terms of looking at public infrastructure or transport links or whatever it may be. But I think it's really important that we have to make sure that the updates, whilst they lay the groundwork for more flexible, scalable certification models, but we need to make sure the priorities are maintaining the rigor and credibility WiredScore is known for in anything we apply ourselves to. So we will be thoughtful about any expansion, be that asset class specific or into the wider built environment as a whole.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Now we have a couple of questions regarding expiry of certification. So I'll just very quickly take this. Your expiry date is set once your building is certified. Your building will not expire once the new scorecards are available to certify on. That expiry date will not change. So if you've recently certified, you'll recertify in 2 years, regardless of the fact that we are updating the scorecards. So please do not worry about that. I think the majority of the other questions are regarding the key dates, which we've covered now, hopefully, or individual access issues. So please do reach out to AP support if that applies to you. Otherwise, I think we have completed all of our questions today. So in that case, thank you very much to our great speakers. It's been great to have you here. Thank you so much for your time and have a wonderful day.